It seems to me that the more days that go by, the worse it becomes for the few Republicans still willing to face their own voters in their own districts at their own town hall events. Now, I think we can all agree that it doesn't get much redder than Wyoming. Well, here's what Republican Congresswoman Harriet Hageman's town hall looked like.
Dismantling Social Security. And even with reconciliation, we are not allowed to touch Social Security. The work that I have specifically been doing, I am on the Judiciary Committee and the Natural Resources Committee.
I worked for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, helping Wyoming family farmers deal with drought until I was fired a month ago in the mass firings, and despite only having the highest marks in my performance review. In a state where so many farmers rely on government programs for drought and disaster relief, Trump's plans to cut these programs and the people who administer them, coupled with the tariffs, will decimate Wyoming farms and rural communities. What are you doing about that?
I disagree. Well aware of what kind of programs are out there. It's so bizarre to me how obsessed you are with federal government. But here's the thing. You guys are going to have a heart attack if you don't calm down. I'm sorry. Your hysteria is just really over the top.
She says, "It's so bizarre to me how obsessed you are with federal government. If you could engineer in a lab someone who had more disdain for her own constituents, this is what it would look like. Imagine being in Congress and yet still deriding your own constituents for caring about what happens in their own government." That's the fundamental difference between the two sides, as far as I'm concerned. Democrats want people to be engaged. They want people to be informed. They want people to vote. Republicans don't. Republicans know that they derive a huge benefit by being able to operate in obscurity. And yet here, you've got a Republican member of Congress literally mocking her own constituents for the crime of wanting to speak to their elected officials. I know that Republicans love to pretend that they have contempt for Democrats, but honestly, there is no one they despise more than their own voters. With that said, at least she showed up. According to the Wall Street Journal's Olivia Beavers, NRCC Chair Richard Hudson just very dramatically told members to put down their phones and listen. He said no one should be doing town halls. Likened it to 2017, said the protests at town halls and district offices are going to get even worse. No one should be doing town halls. In other words, Republican members should not have to face their own voters, the people who pay their salaries. Instead, they should just barrel ahead completely unaccountable to anybody other than, of course, the God King, Donald Trump. Because God forbid these Republicans forget who they're really there to serve. But I want you to pay particularly close attention to what Richard Hudson said about 2017. In 2017, after Republicans began their assault on the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, it's true that Republicans across the country were forced to suffer the indignity of having to face their own voters. And of course, it was a disaster because, surprise, surprise, stripping healthcare away from Americans is aggressively unpopular. And importantly, that culminated into Republicans losing the House in 2018 by the biggest margin in modern American history. Republicans can very clearly see what's on the horizon, and they're not happy about it. Now, there's something called the Streisand effect, wherein trying to prevent someone from seeing something only shines a brighter spotlight onto it. So if Republicans are so hell-bent on making sure that no one sees what's happening at their town halls, then I'll use this opportunity to make sure that everyone can see what they're doing at their town halls.
When will you stand up to them and say that is enough?
The end result of the fraud and abuse that has been discovered already.
Trump has issued a lot of executive orders. I think by and large this is moving very quickly compared to other administrations, and I think across the board he's done some very good things. I think
Here's Here's a particularly telling one, where Roger Marshall straight up bailed rather than be forced to confront the reality of what his own party is doing to veterans.
Right now, as far as cutting out those jobs, a huge percentage of those people, and I know you care about the veterans, are veterans.
Yes.
And that is a damn shame.
Yes. Yeah.
That is a damn shame.
I'm not a Democrat, but I'm worried about the veterans, man.
Well, I yielded to one of my elders, and I appreciate his comments. I think it's a great, we don't have time for everyone to stand up. I do got 2 more commitments today. Appreciate everybody making the drive out, and God bless America. Thank you.
Now, I spoke with AOC about the phenomenon of Republicans avoiding their own voters. Here's what she had to say.
I think regardless of what party you are, if you're independent, Republican, Democrat, you have a right to see your elected member of Congress whose job it is to serve and represent you. And you're right, I've had plenty of town halls where people not even from my district have shown up. And they give me a tough time.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of the gig, being a publicly elected official. You're never gonna make everybody happy, but my job, part of it, is you go home, you go to your town halls, you explain what you're doing. Sometimes you gotta face the music. There's tough votes that we gotta take here, but our job is to hear from people. And if you aren't doing town halls because your own residents and members of your community are upset with what you're doing, the answer is you gotta own your decisions.
And so what should Democrats do right now? Because there is a vacuum that's being created where even in these Republican districts, and these are not, a lot of the time, these are not even swing districts. These are R plus 20, R plus 25 districts. That means 20 or 25 points more Republican than the rest of the nation. And so they're not able to speak to anybody because their representatives aren't showing up. And so is there an opportunity for Democrats to be able to step in here?
Yeah, totally. I mean, listen, if your representative is not doing a town hall, give me a ring. I mean, I don't know if an R plus 25 district would have me, but I'm always willing to be proven wrong. And I'll say it right here, right now. If a deep red Republican district wants to have an honest conversation, even if it's with someone they disagree with, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to meet with Republicans and just, be honest about where I stand, where they stand. We can explain, and understand each other better. But I definitely think it creates a vacuum. And even if it's not a Democratic member, people can host community town halls. You don't need a member of Congress to host a town hall, and just host one without them.
And look, Republican officials and their mouthpieces on right-wing media will debut their excuses, like claiming that the only people that are showing up to these town halls are liberals. And if they want to pretend that their voters are perfectly content with what they're doing, they do so at their own peril. If they want to pretend that their voters want Medicaid cut, that their voters want food stamps cut, want Social Security hobbled, want veterans fired, want Elon's teenage band of minions having access to their personal information, want education cut, want commercials for the richest man in the world to take place on the White House South Lawn, then they should keep barreling ahead and showing utter contempt for the people who elected them into that office. It is their own jobs on the line. So no, despite Republican claims to the contrary, these are not sob stories, these are not paid actors, these are not Democratic operatives, these are nurses and teachers and retirees and veterans and healthcare workers. These are everyday Americans who are seeing prices go up under Donald Trump, the economy showing signs of slumping, their neighbors being fired without cause, and America retreating around the world, and they want answers. And as Americans who still live in what remains a democracy, at least for now, that is exactly what we should be doing. The reality is that Republicans are feeling the heat, as well they should be. The answer then is to not let up. If you live in a district with a Republican lawmaker or a state with a Republican senator, call them. Show up to their field offices, show up to their DC offices, go to their town halls. Do not let them get a free pass just because they've decided that they don't have to be accountable to anybody. They're hoping to get a free pass. We're here to show them that there is no such thing. Before you go, first, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we're now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they're willing to cater to this White House. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a great way for me to be able to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's completely free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support my work. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.